Greetings, fellow Vox-Terrans. Today, I bring the discussion about the long-term survival of our species to the sci-fi author Iain Banks, specifically his culture novel series. That series takes us to a point in time where humanity, or hominids, or pan-humans, as he often refers to them, have survived a single planetary extinction event and have spread to something of a galaxy-wide civilization with sentient AI spacecrafts and drones that harbor humanity and work with it. The culture novel that I'm currently reading and that I'm focusing on for today's show is called Excession. And here I'm looking at this dialogue from around page 99 to 100 between a sentient drone named Chert and a human or a pan-human named Ulver. And they're discussing the discovery of this massive black sphere that appeared near a red dwarf star. The sphere creates no ripple in the fabric of space-time, or what Iain Banks refers to as a skein. Now, I'm no advanced physicist myself, but based on what I know about physics, I would say here the author is playing around with different advanced physics concepts. That matter is sitting on a metaphorical flat surface, that space-time fabric. The larger the object, the greater the ripple or the impact in that fabric. So in the novel, this sphere, this orb, appears to make no ripple on that space-time fabric, as if it isn't there. But then, contrarily to it not being there, that sphere, that orb, does have an effect on what Iain Banks refers to as the underlying energy field. Now here I assume he is playing around with concepts of like quantum fields, or what underpins this three-dimensional reality, the reality that we observe. What's underneath it, or what's above it? What's it all manifesting from? What is the engine, if you will, that generates this existence, that generates our universe, or one verse? Our drone friend Chert describes the implications of the technology. This takes us to a main theme of my show, and here I shall read from you from page 100. The drone speaking. You could choose the size and therefore age of the universe you wanted to remain within, and or visit as many as you wanted. You could, for example, head on up through older universes and attempt to access technologies, perhaps beyond even this one. But just as interesting is the point that because you wouldn't be tied to one universe, one time stream, you need be involved in no heat death when the time came in your original universe, or no evaporation or big crunch depending. So here he's talking about the possible ways physicists are thinking our universe could end. It's like an escalator, he says. At the moment, confined to this universe, we're stuck to this stair, this level. The possibility this artifact, that's what they call it, an artifact, appears to offer is that of being able to step from one stair to another, so that before our stair on the escalator comes to the end of its travel, heat death, big crunch, whatever, you just step off one level down to another. You could, in effect, live forever. Well, unless it's discovered that the cosmic fireball engines themselves have a life cycle. As I understand it, the metamath on that implies, but does not guarantee, perpetuity. So here the drone and Ulver, the human, are talking about escaping the end of our universe, or the long-term survival of the species, or the long-term survival of sentience. Well, let's just talk about what he's talking about escaping from. And this is beyond the typical discussion in my show, but he's talking about escaping heat death. Well, what do they mean by heat death? Heat death is the laws of entropy, that everything's sort of gradually cooling down and reverting to a state of balance, as I understand it. And that will eventually cause all matter within our universe to go cold like a corpse. The crunch, I believe what he's talking about, is the idea that our universe keeps expanding, but eventually many physicists or some believe it's going to contract back in on itself, presumably here into another singularity or a single point of mass, only to explode outward all over again. By evaporate, I suppose he means just continually expanding into eventual disassembly. Now, the drone leaves open-ended the question of, does the energy field or cosmic fireball engine that generates our and other universes, or as I like to say, underpins this reality, does that underlying field, that underpinning of our reality, whatever's beneath this or above it, however you want to conceive of it, have a cycle of its own? And this dialogue really resonated with me because, first of all, they're playing around with concepts that they don't know the answers to exactly. And I myself have played around with the idea as someone who's always thought about the long-term survival of our species. And if we could ever pin it down, well, what comes next? What comes next? What comes next? As far as we know, everything that we are aware of is basically just various combinations of atoms. A human, or a human is more pretentious, people like to say, just kidding if you say it that way. It is an assembly or formation of atoms into one shape, a dog another, a planet, etc., etc., etc. They're all just combinations of atoms, combinations of the same thing. So I have given thought in the past not to maybe escaping entropy, escaping the eventual coldness of the universe, but is there a way possible that if humanity could get past this impasse we're at now, spread beyond Earth, not self-implode, not destroy ourselves, not use AI merely to perpetuate commercial ends, which is what it's being used for, worse, but use it to accumulate real knowledge, work towards real sentience. Could there somehow be the ability at some point to rearrange matter in much more sophisticated, powerful means than now? Could you outsmart entropy? Well, here Iain Banks is sort of taking it for granted that humanity got past this impasse, that there was a survival of sentience, there was a survival of humanity or hominids or panhumans, and that they accepted the basic mission in life is to be curious, to learn, and to promote existence, promote sentience, promote survival. But here we are in this present situation of a humanity largely mired down in a go-nowhere rat race of buy, sell buy, need it or don't. As I like to say, pumping our biosphere full of carcinogens and greenhouse gases and microplastics, superheating the planet, undermining it as a habitable place for ourselves, mired in endless warfare, in large part to protect those dominant commercial interests, either directly invade Iraq, secure oil fields, or less directly, war with China or rattling your saber at them and nothing changes at home, using AI to target people as consumers, manipulate their feelings, desires, and desire to support those dominant industries. Hey, I need a big truck to get from A to B because they're associating with freedom and all these other values that I believe I like. Or using AI to target people, directly target them as enemies of the state, enemies of the government, enemies of the people, enemies of whatever the heck you want to call it, and literally target them. For deportation now, for targeted as enemies. Well, how do you get past there? How do you get from A, where we are now, politics of petty squabble, to B, a politics focusing on the long-term survival of humanity? And what's the purpose of our existence? Well, in the next or future shows, I intend to bring into this discussion the sci-fi author Octavia Butler. Well, until the next show, or if you just go back and listen to one of the earlier ones, thank you for listening, watching, whatever kind of visuals I put with this one. Commenting, please do comment. I mean, hearing those comments are really important to me, or reading them. Like, subscribe, click that notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thanks for my supporters of Patreon. It's also an excellent morale boost. Bella Grissi, Environmental Coffee House. And as always, until next time, peace be with you. And since we're talking sci-fi, you gotta say, live long and prosper.